Just thought we could conclude this series by having a quick look at the actual portable cassette part. It's quite simple to dismantle. There's just 5 screws in total. 2 of them are self-tapping, 3 of them are self-tapping and the others are threaded. Looks like a M2.5 or 3. And then to lift the back off, it's just simply lift and pull it away, and that comes away quite simply. And then we have access to the belts. There's nothing in the battery compartment, but again, looking at the unit, there's a small micro switch here. We could probably clean that. It looks like we've got 2 belts onto this capstan, and as you can see, that is pretty well worn. I did think it was alright originally when I first tried it, but after I run a couple of tapes through it, it was starting to, worm flutter was getting quite bad on it. And there's a belt underneath as well, so we've got 2 belts in total to change on this, and it looks like to remove the board. There's a small screw here and there's one here. We'll remove this plate and just see what's underneath it, and then hopefully that should give access. I mean, we can take this screw off here, take this screw off here, that should release that plate so we can put the belts on. So it should be quite a simple job. It's just a question of measuring them really. So let's have a quick look at doing that. And that looks quite easy for access, and as you can see under there, we can get in access to that belt there, and clean up some of these contacts, re-grease things, check the plastic cogs for any breakages. But yeah, it looks quite a simple one to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at trying to get the belts off first by removing this, and see if that's the best way forward to do it. I'll just loosen that one. Hopefully we can then just spin this over. That should give us access to this belt, which is the top one, and the bottom belt. And this bottom belt down here, we should be able to just take this off. And hopefully just pull this forward. And that's the second belt. And hopefully they're both the same size. So it looks like it's quite a simple one to do this, so I'm just going to have to measure the belts first and then get them replaced, and hopefully that should cure the worm flutter that's on this unit. I can't really see anything else that we can do other than re-grease and clean it up a little bit. Let's have a quick look through my belts kits, and this top one, stretched, the original, is 75mm. The bottom one, stretched, is 80mm. So I'm going to try replacing them with a 75mm and a 70mm, and hopefully that 5mm should just take out that little bit of stretch. If not, I might drop them both down to, well, I'll go down to 65 on that and maybe a 70 on the bottom one. Let's get this bottom one in. I have cleaned the capstan and the other cogs and re-greased some of the smaller cogs. I've checked them and they all seem to be okay. So we've got that bottom belt on. Let's get the top belt on. So still a little bit loose, but we'll give that a try. Realign this board. Let's go back on. One of the other things you could check on this board while you're doing this is looking for any dry joints. I have had a quick scan over, I couldn't see anything. Okay, we've got that back together, we've got no bolts on it. And all we've got to do now is put the back on, which is quite simple enough to do. Just put it in from this bottom edge, make sure those battery wires are out of the way. They do seem to have moved over. Let's get those out of the way, tell there. I don't want to trap those. Just typical Amstrad, give it a prod and a push, and it's alright. Let's put him back in. Put the battery cover back on. Yep, that's Amstrad quality build for you. Well, let's drop it back into the main unit and we'll give it a test. That's that well. Eject that. No, nothing in there. I've dropped a cassette in there. Let's plug it in and see what it does. Let's press play. Well, we put a different tape in it and it's still playing a bit slow. I changed the belts. I went from the 75 to a 70 on the bottom and changed the top from a 75 to a 60. Now that might be my problem, I'm not sure, but maybe just a motor adjustment on the speed now. I'm just going to have to open it back up again and have a look for that. But it is playing, but it's slightly slow, so it could be too much tension on the belts, don't know. Could be the motor just needs a slight adjustment. So I'm going to do that. We'll give it another try. Well, I'll trace the wires through from the motor and they come down to here, they go through a fusible resistor, and then on the underside of the board there's no variable to actually adjust the speed of the motor. So I think what I'm going to have to do is take the whole thing out, and it doesn't look too bad. I think this place just lifts out. Looks like there's a couple of screws there, and there's one there, and then I believe there's probably a couple. Let me just open this. Get it open. Maybe a bit stupid, pressing down on it at the same time. I think there's a couple of screws, there's one there and one there, and I think this lid can be lifted off. So I'm going to have a look at doing that, just see if that's the way to get into it. I don't really want to damage it, but it does look like then the whole mechanism should come out. It looks like there's a couple of screws at the back, but I don't know if they're associated to holding the chassis in. So I'm going to have a quick play, take some of these screws off and just see what happens. Well, I can lift this lid off simply. There's some clips there that clip underneath there and clip under there, and then you can just simply lift this piece away. So we can give that a clean. That now gives us access into this unit, a little bit more access anyway. Whether we need to remove any of these screws or not, again, we will try and see what comes away. I've pulled the knobs off on the front there. Hopefully everything should just come out as a complete module. I'm a bit worried about this springy clip on the back. I don't really want to dislodge the springs on those. Well, we'll give it a go. Yeah, we're to remove a screw from there. There's one there, and there's quite an awkward one to get there, but what you need to do is close the lid and go in through there, and then take this one out at the back here. It should now, hopefully, lift out. Something's... oh, maybe it comes out at an angle. I probably shouldn't have took this board off while I'm trying to do this, but the variables are holding it in place. There we go. And there is an adjustment on the motor, so hopefully we can sort of power it up looking like this. I'll see how these come off, and then I can get the front off totally. It's just 2 screws there. There's just one there, so I'll get that off. I'll get this out, and hopefully I can power this up on the desk. So let's just do that now. I want to clean these pots anyway. And screw out. And hopefully they should sort of lift out now, somehow or other. It's going to take a bit of fiddling about with, I think. I'm not quite sure that comes out of there. I think it's just a bit of brute force, to be honest. There we go. That's got it, yeah. Just press on there with your fingernail. And there we have the chassis removed. And there is the cassette mechanism in tow. So we can clean the head, clean the pinch rollers now a lot easier, grease up this part of the board. And there's the adjustment for the speed on the motor. So we'll have a look at that. I might put the scope on it just to see what the frequency output is. I've got a test tape, and just calibrate it using the test tape. But that's roughly it. That's it in bits, all out and ready to be worked on. We can change the belts, clean up these pots, and just check the board for dry joints or any swirled components or capacitors. They all look okay at the moment. I don't think this has had a lot of use, to be honest. Right, let me have a look at screwing this board back down so we can then at least power it up and have a look at adjusting the motor speed. I was just looking at this mechanism, and although I've took it all apart, it's another job, just put it back together, but I did need to look on this front casing. Just there is a small hole, and that lines up with the motor speed adjustment. So when that's on the top of there, you can put a screwdriver in and adjust the motor speed from there. But now I've got it apart, we live and learn, I'm just going to give everything a clean and a grease. It's not a great deal of work to put it back together, but it's a lesson learned. So if you do want to adjust your motor speed, just look for that little hole, and it should line up with that, and you can just adjust from inside there. Quite a nice design, really. To create this test tape, I used this Tech AD850, which has got USB, CD and tape, and I basically recorded digitally onto this USB stick 440 Hz and a 1 kHz tone, both in stereo at 0 dB. And then inserted that into there, put my tape into there the usual way, fast forwarded, rewinded, taking any stretch out of the tape, and then I just did the recording. And every 3 minutes, this changed from 440 Hz to 1K tone, and I just kept repeating that until the tape was full. And it seems to work for me. It's good enough. I've tried it on a few different cassettes now, where I've fixed them, and all we're basically going to do is feed the output from the headphone socket into this jack and pick up the output on the actual scope probes, and then just read the frequency off the oscilloscope. It really is that simple. If you haven't got an oscilloscope, you can just plug some headphones in. It's probably better to do with headphones, and then just play a tape and do the adjustment until it sounds right to you. That's what's important. Okay, we put the scope on the unit. It's 440 Hertz and it's fluctuating between about 441, 445. So I think we've tuned it just about right, to be honest. A little bit of worm flutter on it, but that's fine. We're just simply taking the output from the headphone socket straight into the scope, and the adjustment was actually done. Just to check that via this little hole here. So effectively we've just got our screwdriver, which is a normal flat-headed screwdriver. Stick it in this little hole here and just turn and adjust. And it really is that simple to set this removable cassette up. Well, that seems to be working okay. It sounds okay. I won't play anything because obviously copyright protection, unless you want to hear a full 40 Hertz tone, which is just quite annoying, to be honest. But yeah, I think that's all up and running now. Slight messing with the belts, different sizes, but we've got another completed unit. This can now just join the rest of the collection I've got. It works quite nicely just on that tape. It's not a calibrated tape, but it's close enough, and I have listened to some audio and it sounds just about right, to be honest. So in comparison to both and to what I did the original recording on.